Good day, everyone. I'm David Pating. I'm one of the minister assistants at the Buddhist Church of San Francisco. I'm speaking to you from my home today, where we are all sheltering in place. Today is the birth of Shinran Shonin's annual memorial, and we will be celebrating Gotane. Before we do that, I'd like to ask you to join me in a quick gassho. The debt of gratitude I owe Amida's great compassion. I will proclaim until my life disintegrates into dust. The debt of gratitude I owe my Dharma teachers. I will express until my bodily form is finally shattered. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. To start today's presentation and Dharma talk, I'd like to give you a short summary of Shinran's life, and then we'll conclude with some of Shinran's poems that outline some of his more profound thinking. And I think you'll get a glimpse of the kind of man that Shinran was and the life that he led. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you, and we'll start with a quick life of Shinran. So I want to thank the Nishihon Ganji 750 celebration for the illustrations of the life of Shinran. I like these illustrations. They're more friendly than the traditional Kamakura statues that have depicted Shinran. So for me, they are just a kinder, gentler image of him, although he was a very kind and gentle man. So Shinran Shonin, born 1173 to 1262, is the founder of the Jodo Shinshu school of Pure Land Buddhism. He was born in 1173 over the hills above Kyoto and was named Matsuwaka Maru. He was a son of a father of the Hino clan, who was roughly related to the noble family, the Fujiwaras. The Fujiwaras were in bitter embattlement with the Minamoto clan, and this was a time of great feuds. And so this is the time in which young Shinran was born, which was a time of great turbulence. Shinran says that there were many famines and things terrible, and it was very, very difficult to think about. Shinran's mother and father died young, when he was young, and it's said because of this, he sought refuge in a temple. So at age 9, he joined Shorin in temple in Higashiyama. At first, he wasn't entered and allowed to enter. Who would allow a 9-year-old boy who said he wanted to become a monk into a temple unless he was very dedicated? So the story is that he was asked to come back another time. But instead of coming back, Shinran waited outside the temple gates, where he composed one of his more famous verses: "Cherry blossoms that are felt to last the morrow may well blow away tonight. Cherry blossoms that are felt to last the morrow may well blow away tonight." With these words, Jian, the monk of the Shorin in temple, allowed Shinran to enter the temple, recognizing his special talents and deep Buddhist insights. Shinran would live not in this temple, because this was a satellite of the Tendalite temples of Mount Hiei, but he would quickly move up to the top of the mountain of Mount Hiei, overseeing Kyoto, where he served as a doso or hall attendant in the Amida Hall on Mount Hiei. There, monks practiced daily recitation, meditation, scholarly activities. And Shinran did this for 20 years. But there was sort of a sense of disgruntlement, or at least disappointment, because he never felt that he achieved the peace of mind that he felt was the essence of enlightenment. So around the age 28 or 29, he entered in a very rigorous form of meditative recitation. This was a walking Nembutsu recitation where young aspirants would walk continuously while circumambulating a Amida Buddha. On the 95th day of this circumambulation, which I cannot underestimate how difficult this was, because the circumambulation, you don't sleep, you're not allowed to sit down, and you have to keep walking, your feet swell up, and on the 95th day of this circumambulation, it's said that Shakyamuni had a vision of Avalokiteshvara, the goddess, Buddhist goddess of mercy, and Avalokiteshvara recommended that Honen, or that Shinran, go see Honen down in the valley in order to become enlightened. So Shinran descended the mountain of Mount Hiei and met with Honen Shonin, or Master Genku, at age 29. Honen gave him the name Shaku, or later changed to Zenshin, and they studied for about 4 or 5 years together. Honen was very interesting. Rather than attending and preaching and providing Buddhist services for the aristocrats of the Heian and Kamakura era, Honen spoke to everyday peasants, commoners, former samurai, and lay people that were more common at the base of the mountain. Honen taught a very special teaching, which was the 18th vow, or the primal vow of Amida Buddha. This is probably the most essential vow, or the essential concept of our faith, which is that all those who have faith in Amida Buddha and say the Nembutsu, Namo Amida Butsu, will be born in the Pure Land. Again, all those who have faith and say the Nembutsu will be born in the Pure Land. And upon hearing these words, Shinran had a major awakening or revelation. Shinran also met his wife when he was at Honen, and maybe she was a different kind of revelation. She also looked like an anime character. This special teaching, however, of the Nembutsu practice, which was available to all lay people, it didn't require special meditation, hours of study, or recitation upon recitation. It was a simple saying of the Buddha's name, Amida Buddha, Namo Amida Butsu. For this, Honen and Shinran were exiled from Kyoto after some rival monks complained to the emperor. And they complained that this teaching was blasphemous. How could someone become enlightened by just saying the name of Amida Buddha? So Honen and Shinran were then forced to travel the countryside, and the conditions at that time were very harsh. It's at this time that Shinran developed many of his major ideas. One was that he was neither lay, because he had been through monk training, nor a monk, because he had been disrobed and banished. But he used this opportunity to spread the Nembutsu teachings that he learned from Honen. In this picture, you can see soon behind him is Lady Ashini and 2 of their many 8 children. You'll also notice that many of the peasants at that time had funny hairdos and lumps on their head. Shinran started his teaching in the western coast of Japan, in the Echigo area. That's where Ashini's family was from. And then later moved to the Kanto area just below and around Tokyo. So that's why you see Mount Fuji in the background here. You also see in white Shinran's eldest daughter, Kakushini, who becomes later important in the perpetuation of the Jodo Shinshu tradition. This is a 17th to 18th century scroll depicting the life of Shinran. It's one of the most thorough depictions and is read, interestingly, from the bottom up. It's a 4-panel scroll starting on the right, and it's read from the bottom up. I've tried to look at this with a magnifying glass, and I get lost through the story. But if you look at it carefully, you'll see many of the points that I've discussed and some of the ones that I haven't. When Shinran wasn't traveling, he was always reading and writing. Shinran was a scholar at heart. And at 1224, at the age of 52, he wrote his most famous work, the Kyogyo Shinsho. Or, that's the short version. The true name is Kenjoro Shinjitsu Kyojo Sho Monrui, the true teaching, practice, and realization of the Pure Land Way. This has 6 chapters which outline the Pure Land path. If you actually read it, read chapters 1 through 4. Upon writing this and teaching, Shinran later moved to Kyoto again, above the hills, at age 62 in 1235, accompanied by his daughter Kakushini, again here with the white headdress. There he did what he always loved to do, which is to read and write. In the spring of 1257 was one of his most productive years, and it was this year that he refined the Kyogo Shinsho, the hymns of the Pure Land, hymns of the Pure Land Masters, hymns of the Dharma Age, notes of the essentials of faith alone, and many, many other writings. Interestingly, one of his most famous writings was not written during his lifetime, the Tanisho. The Tanisho, or the Lamenting of Divergences, was written after he was passed away and was a collection by his student, Yuenbo. Finally, at the age of 90, which was a long time living during the Kamakura era, Shinran died in January 16th, 1263. And it's around that time we celebrate his memorial, which is Honko. At his side was Kakushini, his daughter, which interestingly, she writes in a letter to his mother that he died very peacefully and facing the West. However, unlike some Buddhist literature at the time, there weren't fragrant smells, there weren't purple lights and flowers. It was a very simple but peaceful death, which was the way Shinran lived his life. He was later buried in a plot of land that was owned by Kakushini's husband. She later married, and the husband dedicated a plot of land, which then became the Nishi Otani Mausoleum. And if you go to Kyoto, you can go up to the hills and see the mausoleum. So that is Shinran's life. But the importance of Shinran wasn't just how he lived, although that is important and really informed a lot of what his teachings was. But what his teaching that he left us is what we remember him for. We remember him for teaching us not only to recite the Nembutsu, but the meaning of true faith and Shinjin, which is the point of realization of Amida Buddha, working through our lives through the primal vow. I'll share a little bit more about that in a minute. But what I actually would like to go in the remaining amount of time that I have is talk about Shinran's poems. It's really interesting. Jodo Shinshu is one of the traditions in Buddhism where a large part of the teaching is transmitted through poems. Zen teachings have poems and koans, but if we look at the work of Dogen, his rights, while very poetic, were mostly written in prose. So Jodo Shinshu, however, is, well, Shinran wrote in prose, but a lot of his teaching, particularly for laity, and that would include ourselves as well, was written in poems. So let's start with the first poem, which is the one he wrote at age 9. First, I think it's miraculous that he wrote a poem at age 9, let alone one as good as this. Again, cherry blossoms that are felt to last the morrow may well blow away tonight. Shinran, age 9. Cherry blossoms that are felt to last the morrow may blow away tonight. In this poem, I think Shinran is expressing his deep understanding of the impermanence of life and perhaps the suffering of life and the craving of life due to that impermanence. Now, this poem itself wasn't so unique in that the theme of impermanence and cherry blossoms was very popular among the waka poets of the Heian and Kamakura courts. However, to realize this at such an early age is important. And the idea of impermanence pervades Shinran's writings. Shinran also felt that because life was suffering and his time in Kamakura, Japan was one of suffering, that he was never able to really realize how to overcome that suffering and the sense of loss and impermanence. I actually wondered whether the sense of loss was maybe because he lost his parents very early on and there was a deep sense of something missing. But when he met Honen, he realized that there's a commonness among people, of lay people, and that he felt himself to be one of laity and a foolish being, a bombu, who, while supposedly wise, was inwardly foolish. So he writes here, the shinjin of the wise, and this would be the monks of Mount Hiei, is such that they are inwardly wise and outwardly foolish. The heart of a gutoku, which is Shinran's name, or foolish or stubble-haired man, which is what he often referred to himself. The heart of gutoku is such that I am inwardly foolish and outwardly wise. And so this is Shinran's view, is that he, with his foolishness, could never really understand the depths of overcoming the suffering of impermanence. But for the saving grace of Amida, he later writes, the light of purity is without compare. When a person encounters this light, all bonds of karma fall away. So take refuge in Amida, the ultimate shelter. Here Shinran writes that all bonds of karma fall away, all karmic links to suffering and the sense of impermanence fall away because we are filled with the everlasting light of Amida Buddha, our ultimate shelter. So it's only through Amida Buddha that we overcome the sense of loss, that we as commoners, we are all bombu, are able to partake and understand. And it's with this deep understanding, the shinjin, or the heart of understanding, that was transmitted from Honen, this is Honen here, to Shinran, passed down from all the great masters above, and from Amida itself, that Shinran writes this final poem that I'm going to share with you in the hymns of the Dharma ages, which itself refers to the end of the life of Buddhism in the end of the Dharma ages, which this is the poem number 29. You'll recognize this as Ondoku-san. The debt of gratitude I owe Amida's great compassion, I will proclaim until my life disintegrates into dust, and the debt of gratitude I owe my Dharma teachers, I will express until my bodily form is finally shattered. This is the words of Shinran as he expresses the deep gratitude he has to all his teachers and to Amida Buddha, who through the wisdom light of the teaching of the Nembutsu, he was able to realize finally a settled heart and a peace of mind. So it's in this thought that I wish that we would share our gratitude for Shinran's birth. So not only just for Shinran, but for Honen and all the masters before Honen and Amida's light training transmitted through all those masters. It comes to us in the form of the name Namo Amida Butsu, and Namo Amida Butsu being the ultimate form of light and wisdom and compassion in the world. We partake of a small bit of that in sharing and understanding and paying our gratitude on Gotane service for the life of Shinran. Yeah. Trying to get back to you all. So I will leave this service here. I'm sorry I'm in the small little box of this presentation, but it's my pleasure again to share with you Shinran's life, and I hope with you that you'll have a mindful day of what we've received from our founder, Shinran Shonin. And I'm going to ask us to do a closing gasho in deep gratitude. The debt of gratitude I owe Amida's great compassion, I will proclaim until my life disintegrates into dust. The debt of gratitude I owe my Dharma teachers, Shinran, Honen, the seven masters, and Amida Buddha himself, I will express until my bodily form is finally shattered. May we all take refuge in the primal vow of Amida Buddha and the teachings of Shinran Shonin. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you for joining me today. Have a wonderful rest of your day.